Welcome back to WP SportsDesk. Right now we have Justin, Chris, Greg, and Wyatt at the desk to talk some college football after a big week of upsets. But first, we send it over to Danny Frost to break down the new rankings.
Thanks, Mason. Alabama remains undefeated and holds on to their #1 ranking after a crazy week of upsets. Ohio State jumps from 5th to 2nd as a result of losses from Michigan, Clemson, and Washington. Michigan stayed in 3rd place and Clemson went from 2nd to 4th. And lastly, Washington dropped from 4th to 6th behind Louisville.
All right, fellas. Now, as Danny noted, Clemson, Michigan, and Washington all lost this week. All big upsets. What was the most surprising one? Greg, throw it to you.
I was actually surprised by Michigan, Iowa, because I thought Michigan, after Alabama, was the best team. So that really shocked me.
Oh, I'm on the same boat. I mean, Wilton Speight came off a career-high 362 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then just had his worst game of his career. I mean, you can always argue that Rutgers was worse, but I mean, that was a game where they were able to run all over the Scarlet Red.
That was the
78-0 game. But I mean, this time around, he just couldn't get the ball up and couldn't deliver when he was supposed to.
I disagree with both of you. I think the Clemson loss was a lot bigger, especially because Clemson had basically a cakewalk to the college football playoffs, and they blew it. Now they're still in the playoffs, but it's not going to be as easy because they have that loss now. Michigan still has Ohio State on their schedule, so everyone kind of looked at them as they could lose, they could still drop out. Clemson, they face Pitt at home. That's a gimme game, and they blew it late.
Right.
Along with Greg and Wyatt, I got to agree with you guys on Michigan, Iowa, because not even just on offense, but on special teams and defense. In the second half, we saw Michigan fumble an opening kickoff, as well as they had a face mask that put Iowa in the field position for the game-winning kick that ultimately ended the game.
Right. Now, even if Ohio State wins their next 2 games, they still might not be in the Big Ten championship, which, you know, that's a question of fairness. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's fair.
Okay.
I think it's fair because I think Ohio State's the second best team in the league. The second best team in the league, excuse me. Ohio State has a top-to-bottom NFL-ready team.
Okay.
Besides Alabama, they are always producing NFL-ready talent. And I think they're the second best team in the nation, so I have no problem with them not winning their division and still make the playoffs.
I think I agree with Chris because Ohio State has a dominant defense. They've only allowed 901 total yards the entire season and only 3 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing, as well as they average 177 rushing yards a game, and that's how you win a championship.
Greg, what do you think?
Well, it's a complicated situation because Ohio State and Michigan are 2 and 3. They play each other, but if Michigan wins, well, they go to Big Ten championship. But if Ohio State wins, they'll have to play Penn State, Penn State beat them, so they're 8th. They'd have to play Wisconsin for a championship.
Right.
I do think they deserve at least a shot, but it depends on what happens in the other conferences. If Washington gets upset or if Clemson gets upset, then I think Penn State and Ohio State could both make it. But I don't think it's fair for Penn State, for example, who's ranked 8th right now, to miss the playoffs while Ohio State gets in.
Wyatt, take a look at the numbers here. What are these telling you?
These are telling me that I think this is still Michigan's conference, definitely. I mean, both Ohio State and Michigan are both 9-1, but I still believe in Jim Harbaugh, that he should be able to pull it away. And Wisconsin and Penn State, they both have 2 losses. We can't just usurp those 2 top teams. Quite honestly, Penn State at 8-2 has the best shot of making some sort of crazy upset.
Right. Now, fellas, it's debatable whether Ohio State deserves to be ranked in the top 5. But there are a bunch of other teams that also have debatable rankings. So let's play a little game here. Let's rattle off some teams, and I want you guys to tell me if they're ranked too high or too low. Let's start off with Washington. Greg?
I think they're a little too low. They should jump into top 4. As you can see, 44 points per game, 479 yards. They're ranked 6th right now. They should be able to get into top 4, assuming they win out.
I disagree. I think Washington is ranked too high. I think they were exceeding their expectations, but they are 9-1. Congrats to them, but they lost to USC, which is huge. So I'm going to say that they're overranked right now.
Completely agree with you. It maybe not overranked, but definitely like right where they should be. There's no reason for them to be ranked higher.
Justin, what do you think about Washington?
They're absolutely underranked because if they win out and Ohio State is able to beat Michigan, they should be able to jump into one of the 4 slots.
Okay, one more, guys. Let's talk about Penn State. Chris, what do you think?
I think they're a little underrated, to be honest. They beat Ohio State. I think they're the second. They beat Ohio State. I mean, look, they averaged 35.5 points per game, yards per game well over 400. They're ranked 8th right now, and they're 8-2. Yes, they have 2 losses, but you really have to factor in that they beat Ohio State. Ohio State, like I said earlier, is the second best football team.
That was their only big win. They beat.
But it's one of the biggest wins that you can get in the nation, though.
They lost 49-10. they lost to Pitt, who, I mean, I know they beat Clemson, but they're really
Yeah,
not
but
that
Greg, you
good
also have
either.
to give them the credit that they did beat Iowa, and Iowa just beat Michigan last week. So, yeah, definitely a little
Yeah,
too
but also
Gotcha.
Penn State, their last 2 games are against 2 weak schools, Rutgers and Michigan State. They can easily win out, and since they have a win over Ohio State, they should be in the Final Four. So they're underranked.
Good stuff, guys. Now, last week we had Blas's best. This week we're going to flip it, and we're going to have Blas's best of the worst. Let's see what you have here.
All right, best of the worst. Number 5, the Illinois-Wisconsin game. Jeff George Jr. This is how the day went for him. Kicked and picked. He threw 4 interceptions on the day, and Wisconsin had a big win. Number 4, Terry Godwin, the run back. Wildcat snap. Now he shows everybody why he shouldn't be a quarterback. Finds a nice wide-open white shirt, but his team's wearing red. Number 3, Jake Brown trying to lead the comeback in their upset loss. He falls and takes safety. As you can see, the knee touches the ground as he just trips over the turf monster in their upset loss. Number 2, Michigan, Iowa, as we mentioned earlier. Ron Coluzzi, the punter, feet don't fail me now. He somersaults, gets a huge hit, fumbles, 5 on the somersault. However, Iowa did pull the upset. Number 1, Quentin White Jr. scores a touchdown. They're down 1. All Texas Tech needs to tie the game is an extra point. So Clayton Hatfield comes on, attempt the extra point. He misses wide right, and that's how they ended up losing the game 45-44 on missed extra point.
That's some rough stuff for college football. And that's all the time we have for it. It's time to lace up the skates with Riggy and the hockey crew. We'll be right back.